Hello everyone, and welcome to Deafblind Information Australia's webinar for today. My name is Melanie Robertson. I present from the land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and my co-presenter, who I'll introduce later, comes to you from the land of the Gurungi people of the Gurungal clan. We pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I acknowledge the diversity of languages and communication used by the traditional custodians of these lands and the lands on which our audience sits. The diversity, I think, which is paralleled in the communication styles of our deafblind community. Today's topic is the Individual Communication Handbook, a resource that will help you discover and capture the uniqueness of an individual's deafblind communication. Today we'll look at the contents of the handbook template, the what, the where, the why, and the when. We'll look at its strengths and its limitations. We'll acknowledge those who have contributed to its development. And then my co-presenter, Catherine Collins, will explore the accessibility features of the document. So what is this document? Well, it's a blank template with headings and prompts. It's in a Word format, and it has been designed to be accessible to those using and requiring alternate print formats. It contains the option to input text, photograph, and video. Its purpose is to be able to document and capture the communication style of a person with deafblindness and document what supports that communication and the methods that they use, both receptive and expressive. Where you can find it, and you may like to take this opportunity to download it and flick through it as we talk through the document, you'll find it on the Deafblind Information Australia website. And here you see an image of part of the homepage of our website. You will find it under, so you can find the website at www.deafblindinformation.org.au under the Living with Deafblindness menu, and then choose Deafblind Communication. And then in that menu, you'll find the Individual Communication Handbook. And on screen, we have a screenshot of that page. The purpose of the document is to provide a lasting record about the person and their interests and activities at any point in time. It documents their deafblindness, including levels of vision and levels of hearing, and also documents their methods of communication with the purpose of improving connection to that person and the quality of the communication with that person. The processes used to support the filling in, or to support this as well, includes the template will prompt discussion between all stakeholders, between everybody that knows that person with deafblindness, including the person with deafblindness themselves. And through filling in the document, you'll develop a mutual understanding between all those parties and reach agreement about the methods of communication. It will also help you identify gaps in your knowledge and the knowledge that you may need to seek, particularly around levels of vision and hearing and how to support them. It provides a current record in time, but through updating it over time, you create an historical record, which can be quite important when you look back in time, particularly if you have a person with deafblindness who is new to your service and you don't know much about them. Sometimes the history of what they were interested in when they were much younger and the interests they've developed over time are quite important into how you structure your service for that person. We'll often have people new to our service who come without that history. And so we spend a lot of time trying to discover what it was, the skills that they had and the skills that we should be supporting. The content of the template includes documenting the interests of the person and how they spend their days, describing their senses, including vision and hearing, supporting their sensory function. So if they have some functional vision or some functional hearing, how do we best support those senses? Should compensatory strategies be required for those senses? What are these? What is their method of receptive communication? So how do they understand other people? What methods do they use for this? And how do they express themselves? These two, for some deafblind people, may not be the same. These methods may be different. There were also blank pages in the template for additional customization. What makes this document particularly unique is the deafblind elements, which helps you explore the individual's deafblindness and prompts you to do so. It includes a description of how to approach someone respectfully and what methods how do they like to be approached and how do they like that person to introduce themselves and let them know who's there and why they're there. It provides some tips and examples of the hand-under-hand approach to showing people things and demonstrating activities and also teaching new skills. It also provides space to document deafblind communication methods in detail with use of text, photographs and video.
All right, we're going to pause now for an interpreter swap. Georgia, can you please turn your video on? All right, Neil, if it's okay with you, we might go back to you for a sec and then I'll add Georgia when she's ready. Just keep going. Oh, sorry.
The way in which the document supports quality communication for someone with deafblindness through the process of prompting discussion, exploring their sensory presentation, and promoting the collaboration between all the people who have knowledge about the deafblind person and also who have assessment findings, who have conducted assessment findings. Document is a constant where staff and supports may change. As an historical record, it reminds us or raises awareness of what is possible and what that person has achieved and the skills that they do have. The option to include video, embed video in the document, allows you to capture perhaps more information than written text and photo, particularly where the deafblind communication method is so unique, or the ways in which the person achieves certain tasks can be unusual at times. And the video can allow you to appreciate this. The limitations of the handbook, what it can't do and what else you need to achieve quality communication with someone with deafblindness. So the document is not a standalone document. It needs to be used in conjunction with training for the people around the person with deafblindness, and group training around deafblind awareness is useful, along with individualized coaching that will help build interactions and connection with the person with deafblindness. And that person may need individualized coaching, as in the communication partner, may need individualized coaching around the particular methods of communication that that person with deafblindness uses.
Now we're going to swap interpreters.
Take this spotlight off, Neil.
Yeah.
Lost. He's still spotlighted. And then next. I would like to acknowledge the contributors to the development of the document as it stands now. So the idea of a document to support complex communication needs is not a new one. Sally Miller and Stuart Aiken's work at the Call Centre, CALL standing for Communication, Access, Literacy and Learning, at the University of Edinburgh in the 1990s resulted in the publication of the Personal Communication Passport Guidelines. And since then, various organisations around the world have developed their own passport versions. For this deafblind specific version, I am in debt to colleagues past and present at Census WA who are ever improving content and experimenting with functional and appealing layout, along with the project officers who have road tested this current version. And finally, to Catherine Collins, the graphic designer, who I have had the privilege of working with on this and other project resources. She listened to our team's ideas and requirements, persisted and found solutions within the confines and graphic glitches of Word, and created this appealing and accessible template. Catherine, or Kat, is the owner of and sole designer at KC and the Graphics Bandwagon, and has over 20 years of graphic design experience, and is a member of the Roundtable on Information Access for People with Print Disabilities. She will talk to you today about the accessibility features of the document and some tips to maintain this as you create your own individual communication handbooks.
Thanks, Melanie. Now that we've learned about the contents of the handbook, I'd like to take you through some of the hows and then the whys of having the handbook in an accessible format. While we set out to create a fun and engaging handbook, which could include a wealth of information, the main goals were to make it accessible to everyone, including those with low vision, accessing the document directly, and users of screen magnifiers and screen readers. We also wanted to make it easy to input and format information, and at the same time ensure that the handbook could be kept accessible moving forward. So the handbook has been created with fields and placeholder images throughout, which can be easily overwritten and/or replaced. So the handbook has been created with fields and placeholder images throughout, which can be easily overwritten and/or replaced. If you need to add any additional sections, for example, a bulleted list, this can be done easily and quickly via the styles in the Style Gallery, which can be found in the top toolbar. The gallery has been set up with all the styles needed to keep the look and ensure accessibility. Though we do need to keep in mind the following points during the editing process. So headers are set up and need to follow in a certain order to help the user get a sense of the document structure. So heading 1 being the main heading, followed by subheadings 2 down to 5, which is the smallest available heading. It's best to always use words inbuilt line and paragraph spacing to create additional space, either above or below a line, instead of using multiple returns. Screen readers can then pick up on these and will read out all the blank lines where you have hit the return key, which isn't a fun experience. When replacing the existing images to those of your clients, use the change picture function, which will keep its formatting intact. Then you will then need to add alternative text or alt text, which ideally is 1 to 2 sentences describing what's happening in the photo. And then finally, once you've added all your clients' information and photos, all that's left to do is delete the instruction page, update the table of contents, and run the accessibility checker, which we will have a look at now. So the main Microsoft Office programs have a great tool for accessibility inbuilt, and it can be found under File, Info, Check for Issues. And it can be used daily for most communications. Once selected, a box will open in the sidebar, as can be seen in the screenshot on the slide. And you'll be able to see if there are any accessibility errors, warnings, or tips about the contents of the document. There is also an option to keep the checker running while you're working, and a status report can be seen in the bottom toolbar. If any issues do arise, and you're able to click on an error and see the recommendation on how to fix them. Well, it doesn't pick up everything. It does go a long way towards making a great, accessible and user-friendly document. And so let's keep accessibility going and take a look at the whys. why we need access in communications, and it's not just to meet compliance. So looking at the handbook as an example, a great many features have been considered and added to make it as accessible to everyone as possible. Besides those with vision impairments who rely on clear visuals and good contrast, screen reader users will benefit greatly as they can navigate quickly and easily in the same way a sighted user may visually skim and read the handbook. Screen readers will pick up the headings, the lists, tables, and other features and announce them to the user, who is then able to explore further or move past if the content isn't relevant. And while it has been designed to help people with certain disabilities, they benefit a far wider audience than you may think. For example, someone who's colourblind and who has trouble seeing certain colour combinations. Someone may understand content better if read out by assistive technology. Or those with a temporary or situational disability. For example, unable to read the screen as they're performing a task, but can set the document to read aloud instead. It doesn't matter who a document is designed for, there are always others who might benefit by being able to interact with the document in different ways. While accessibility can be a bit daunting, it is something we can all work towards step by step, even on a grassroots level with everyday communications. And I think as the handbook provides as well, it doesn't need to be boring either. So I'll leave it there, and thank you for joining us to learn more about the handbook. Apologies for the quick speaking at the start. Back to you, Melanie.
Lovely. Thank you, Kat. So just a reminder then, that brings us to the end of the presentation content, and we will be opening shortly for question and answer session. So please start putting your questions in the Q&A function in Zoom, and we will address them through there. If you'd like more information about deafblindness, please go to our website, www.deafblindinformation.com.au. And project officers can be contacted via email on info@deafblindinformation.com.au.